Hey guys, what's up here? My name's Andy and you're watching Andy's Fire Club. So today I wanted to talk to you about something that's very important. It's called invest in what you believe in. So I want to start off by telling you a little story. A friend of mine came up to me and he was like, Andy, I want to get into investing, but I don't know how. So my friend did not go to school for finance or investing, so he had no idea what to do and how to get started in investing. So he came and he asked me. He came up to me and he said, hey Andy, this whole field of investing is just so not beginner friendly. Where do I even start? And that's what I told him. I told him, invest in what you love. Now, what do I mean by invest in what you love? First of all, I think everybody knows the price of one thing better than others. So for example, I'm really into computers, right? So if someone tells me, hey, I got this computer with these kind of specs, do you think that's a good price for it? And I would be able to tell them, hey, this is a good price or this is not a good price, right? So I know for some people out there, it might be a certain brand of, Cheetos, right? So if I were to give you a bag of Cheetos and say, oh, this bag of Cheetos is worth $5, you'd go, that's a little expensive. Maybe I'll pay $3 for this bag of Cheetos, right? Or for some people, it might be, let's say, makeup. Now, I'm not a big expert at makeup, obviously. So if you were to ask me, hey, do you think $15 for this lipstick is a good deal? I'd have no idea, right? But if you were to ask someone else who's into this kind of stuff, they might be able to tell you whether or not $15 is a good price to pay for that type of makeup, right? So my point is, if you just apply the same sort of thinking to investing in stocks, then you'd be good, right? So I want you to get to a point where you can look at a stock and go, hey, this is a good price that I should pay for this stock, or this is not a good price, or this company is overvalued, right? So if you're only able to extend that ability instead of for makeup or for computer parts, if you're able to extend that to stocks, then you'd be golden. So the second point I wanted to talk about was you really want to find a company that represents your value. Now, representing your values can mean different things to different people. So for example, some of my friends are vegan and they would not eat meat because of environmental and animal rights concerns. So if you think about it that way, if you're a vegan, you wouldn't want to be putting your money into, let's say, stocks that farm animals. Or for example, I know that a lot of people were really upset with EA with the whole loot boxes scandal, right? So if you don't know, if you're not caught up with that, basically EA had all these games that had these little loot boxes in there which you can purchase with real money. And then sometimes you would get some prize, some big prize if you're lucky, but most of the time you would end up with not what you paid for it, right? So you would pay, let's say, like $10 for this loot box, and you would get stuff that is maybe worth like $2 or something like that. So most of the time people would lose out. And then also there's a controversy where people can just essentially pay to skip turns, right? So if you need to collect a certain amount of experience to level up, well, you can just pay for that experience and not have to wait, not have to play the game for as long to level up. So the things that happen with EA games, people were really upset about it. So maybe for those people who are upset at EA for doing all of this, maybe you would not consider buying any EA stock, right? Obviously, you don't want to give your money to a company that you feel is cheating you or ripping people off or not playing fairly. So my point is, you got to invest in what you believe in and invest in companies that align with your values. So investing in what you believe in is a great way to get started in the field of investing because you already understand a lot of what the company does, right? So say if you're investing in Beyond Meat, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the crazy stock price increase of Beyond Meat ever since it IPO'd. I feel like part of the reason why a lot of people rush into buying Beyond Meat is because of the environmental and the animal rights concerns that people are becoming more and more aware of every day, right? If you just look at the recent stock price surge of Tesla. So I'll talk about Tesla probably a lot more in later videos, but for now, I feel like a reason why Tesla stock surged so much in the past, maybe 3-4 months, is because people are finally starting to realize that we can't be having all these cars that are burning fossil fuels and spraying pollutants into the air. Maybe we should try and transition into electric vehicles and having zero emission cars. I feel like a company like Tesla is really pushing is really pushing the industry towards being more environmentally conscious, and that aligns with the values of people a lot more than these traditional gas car companies, right? So maybe that's part of the reason why Tesla stock is so popular these days. And the added benefit of investing in companies that you believe in is that you have already done your research on them, right? So you have less work to do. If I were to research a makeup company and decide whether I should put some money into this makeup company, I would have to do a lot of research, right? I would have to ask around a lot of people and say, do you think that this company's products is good? Because I have no idea, right? Do you think that this company has a bright future? Because I have no idea, right? So I have to do a lot of work. But if you were to ask me, hey, what's your opinion on Tesla? Or what's your opinion on Apple? Or what's your opinion on anything that I typically do a lot of research on already just for fun? I would be able to tell you in a very concise way where this company might be headed in the future, what's their future growth potential, all of that, because I've already kind of done the legwork already, right? And of course, you still need to do research on the fundamentals of the company and the specific numbers, but most of the time, you've already done 80% of the work if you manage to find a company that you're really passionate about. So this brings me to my next point, which is the benefits of investing yourself instead of trusting a financial advisor or just putting all your money into an index fund. Now, I don't need to bad talk index funds because obviously they're very useful and they're a really powerful tool in order for you to get started in investing and help your way onto retiring early and achieving financial independence. But a drawback of using an index fund or a financial advisor is that most of the time you don't know where your money is going. So if you don't know what an index fund is, an index fund, you can kind of think of it as a basket of stocks, right? So you have this basket and a lot of stocks go into it. So if you have an index fund that tracks the S&P 500, which is 500 of the biggest US companies, an index fund would buy a little piece of that and then weight it accordingly. So if that company makes up a huge piece of the S&P 500, let's say, Apple, right? They would buy a little more of Apple, but they would buy a little bit of everything such that in the end, you have a basket of stocks that mimics the behavior of the entire S&P 500. So essentially, when you buy into an index fund, you're buying a little piece of every company that's in that fund. It's impossible for you to keep track of how much of your money is in each individual company because you just bought a piece of the entire basket, right? So the problem with an index fund is that, again, as I said, you don't know where your money is going, right? So a lot of the times, a lot of companies that people hate, I've labeled some right over there. I'm sure you guys can think of more companies that people hate, right? But companies like, for example, like Comcast or Monsanto, I'm sure some of you are just like shaking your seats as I mentioned those names, right? So they're some of the most infuriating companies that I can think of, right? But again, I'm sure you guys can think of more. A lot of these companies, they're part of huge index funds. And when you're buying index fund, you're actually putting your money into these companies, which you might not be so happy about, right? Think about it. You go to work all day, you make your hard-earned money, and then some of your hard-earned money ends up in the hands of Comcast or Monsanto, which you hate, right? So that's not a good plan. So this is why you might want to consider picking your own stocks instead of just trusting an index fund. Index funds might invest your money into companies that you don't quite believe in or don't match your ethical value. Now, finally, before I end today's video, I just want to give a word of warning. So the last point I want to talk about is there's a difference between liking a product and liking a company. So despite what I've said about investing in what you believe in, you really still want to do your research on the fundamentals of the company, the numbers, and make sure they make sense before you put any money into it, right? I'm not just saying find a product you like and find a company that makes them and just dump all your money in. That's a terrible move, right? You got to make sure that that company, even if it makes a product that you like, that company can have a bright future in front of them, can have growth potential, and is run by proper management. So for example, I know some of you might watch Financial Education run by Jeremy. So I'll leave a link down below in the description if you haven't heard of him. He runs a great channel, so a shout out to Jeremy there. But as some of you know Jeremy's story, he invested in GoPro back when GoPro was popular, right? And The reason why he invested in GoPro was just because he liked the product, right? GoPro makes great cameras. But what ended up happening was GoPro stock ended up dropping from, I think it was, $80 a share at one point, all the way down to now it's like $3 a share or $4 a share. So GoPro had a lot of stuff going for them, but unfortunately the management was not so good, and they made some terrible decisions, and they started making these drones that literally fell out of the sky, which is kind of funny if you think about it, right? But unfortunately, it caused the stock to tank, and Jeremy lost a lot of money. That's just kind of like a warning that you shouldn't buy into a company just because you like the product. So what I'm saying here is not at all just dump your money into a company whose product that you like. You still got to do your research. But I think for most of us, I think it provides a great starting point, right? So if you have a company that you really think represents your values, 9 out of 10 times, I think it could be a great investment. So yeah, I think that's it for today's video. I just wanted to give you guys a great starting point for your investing career so that we can all retire early and achieve financial independence. So with that being said, I'll catch you guys next week. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'll leave the links down below in the description. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.